We have lots to talk about in today's video, including all kinds of action from the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs. We have lots of information from the Department of Player Safety, including some fines after last night's chaos between the Montreal Canadiens and the Washington Capitals. Plus, we're waiting on to see if player safety weighs in on a few other incidents, including Matthew Tkachuk and the Florida Panthers today might be in some hot water after their game against the Lightning. We'll discuss that situation as well. Plus, we have some big updates on the coaching vacancies around the NHL, including updates on David Carle, potential return for Joel Quenneville to the NHL as well, an update on the situation between the Carolina Hurricanes and their top prospect, Alexander Nikishin, and could we see as well a trade between the Canucks and the Red Wings involving potential Red Wings captain Dylan Larkin heading to Vancouver. We'll discuss all that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. We're going to kind of combine a bunch of these bullet points I have here together. Basically a major playoff update between last night's action since I last did a video and tonight. It's been a crazy 24-hour period in the Stanley Cup playoffs with all kinds of stuff here to discuss. I want to start first with last night's action between Montreal and Washington has led to player safety handing out some fines here today. Of course, the Montreal Canadiens went on to win that game, pick up their first victory at home and in the series. Obviously, the Bell Center was rocking last night, one of the best places to see a game and best crowds in hockey, clearly with a very passionate fan base. We're going crazy as the Canadiens defeated Washington to get back into the series after dropping the first two on the road in Washington. But later into the game, complete chaos erupted when Josh Anderson and Tom Wilson ended up in a scrap. They ended up on the Washington bench. It was absolutely crazy. Other players were kind of involved to some degree, but Anderson and Wilson by far the guys that were most involved going at each other. They have history as well. In case you don't recall, they did have a scrap in the early part of this season, and they were at each other verbally at the very least and a little bit physically throughout the game. So it's something that was kind of building. I'll show you a meme here that kind of come from it, but Tom Wilson afterwards, it was funny at first, but I was like, as soon as I seen him kind of fake crying, pointing at the Montreal Canadiens, I was like, oh no, like as much as Wilson's quite the character and it was funny at the time, I was like, that's going to be he's going to turn himself into a meme that lasts forever. He's going to regret doing that down the road. But so Wilson crying certainly getting a lot of people's attention. And the internet world today for funny pictures and videos. But at the end of the day, Josh Anderson certainly did a good job on Wilson. I don't know if we can really declare a winner in the fight, but the fact is that between Anderson and Arbor Jack-I was in the lineup for the Canadiens. I don't know that he really changed a whole lot, but sometimes when players have guys that are, that type of role, sometimes they play a little bigger and they have a little bit more confidence to do things, and it clearly made a bit of a difference for the Habs last night. They get the win. Anderson and Wilson lose a few bucks, $5,000 each, and we move on now. Today, the early game was the Lightning versus the Panthers, and of course we know Brandon Hagel was not available in today's game, serving a one-game suspension for a interference call, a late hit on Panther captain Alexander Barkov. And I wonder if player safety is going to get involved to another situation in that game. They haven't said anything as of yet, but it could come in the morning. I don't know. But right now, I know Matthew Tkachuk had a very similar type play against his former Team USA teammate Jake Guentzel towards the end of that game as the Lightning was getting prepared to hit an empty net goal. Obviously, Guentzel passed the puck, and then you can count, I think, probably a good 3-4 seconds. Tkachuk absolutely comes in and smokes him. Now, the difference between the two is when Hagel hit Barkov, there was some head contact. It was mostly like the upper body, but there was a little bit of head contact. Barkov went down, left the game, but he didn't miss time. Like, he played in today's game. Now, in Guentzel's case, same thing. Obviously was shaken up, but doesn't look like he's going to miss time. So that part's kind of the same. The difference is Barkov never touched the puck at all. The way the play was going, I think Hagel was anticipating that he was going to, but he never did, and he still followed through with the hit. In the case of Tkachuk and Guentzel Gensel did have the puck. It was just really late. So at one point he was eligible to be checked. But Tkachuk had him lined up so far that he would have known. There's no doubt in anybody that you're watching this play that he knew that the hit was late. To me, it was probably a message sending type thing. Obviously we know the Panthers and some of these teams get rowdy at the end of games if they're losing. They know that their captain took a hit similar to that in the last game. So I think it's all honestly it's just retribution, in my opinion. That's what it is. So because of that, I do wonder if Tkachuk's going to get a call from player safety or at the very least a fine. I won't be shocked if he's not suspended, though. Like I said, the main difference between that hit and the Barkov hit is that Gensel did have the puck. It was late, and they called a 5-minute major penalty, which is the right call. I have no problem with that. It's just so late in the game that he hasn't really missed any impactful time. So we'll have to monitor that situation to see if there's anything further from player safety. But nothing as of yet. We'll know probably by the morning here. Now, of course, going into the rest of today's game, then we had Vegas versus Minnesota. Minnesota looked really good here again. Looked like they were going to end up going up 3-1, but it wasn't meant to be. Vegas did come back. It goes into overtime, and Ivan Barbashev gets the overtime winner to tie things up for Vegas 2 apiece. So now we're down to a best of 3 in that series. I believe that would have been the first time in Wild history that they had a playoff series up 3-1. But they've certainly exceeded more. Like, they've played a lot better than I expected them to. I thought Vegas would be handling them a little bit easier, and I did think they might win a game or two, but I thought it would be more dominant for Vegas. And the fact that they've gotten great play out of Kaprizov and Boldy, and Gustafson's been good. Lots of other guys are going too. Like, they've done a good job. They should be proud of their efforts, and you're going to see how things go. And then, of course, the third game of the night, Battle of Ontario, Game 4. Leafs trying to sweep, Sens trying to stay alive, and they did that as an overtime victory at the Canadian Tire Center. Jake Sanderson scores the overtime winner to give the Sens their first big moment on home ice since 2017. Plant a little bit of a seed of doubt in the Leafs. The one thing the Leafs in their history with this core group of guys that have been with the team, going in 8-9 years now, is the fact of their inability to get it done on the closeout games. I think the record's about 1-11, I think it was going into tonight, or 1-10. It's not good, anyways. Of course, we know the only opportunity they had to close out and did it was when they beat the Lightning 2 years ago. So still a long ways to go for the Senators. I don't think the Leafs are worried. I don't think they're panicking. It's one game. They certainly had a decent night, but they weren't as good as they were. I think they played better in the first 3 games than they did tonight. So they'll go back home for Game 5, have an opportunity to do it at home, which is something this group, as this core has not done either, is to win a series at home. So, I think, like I said, no panic. The Leafs look calm. They look composed. They certainly, like I said, they're the best version, in my opinion. And I've been, seeing all their playoff games throughout the entire core group's history here. And to me, this looks like the best version of the Leafs in the playoffs that we've seen to date. It's been tough. At the same time, they've had 3 straight overtime games. So I think you got to give the Sens a little credit here that even though it's 3-1, it could easily be 2-2, or it could have a different outcome. So we'll see. Can Ottawa get enough of a boost off of that win to get it back home for Game 6? We'll see on Tuesday night as they get an extra game or an extra day off. And, of course, tonight's late game is the Avalanche and Stars. The Avs trying to tie the series up. They are currently leading 3-0 as I sat down to record this video. And we had a huge moment just a few moments ago with Gabriel Landeskog scoring his first goal in 3 years as well for the Avalanche, which is tremendous to see. You got to feel happy for the guy. I don't care who you cheer for. This is just a really good feel-good moment. And Ball Arena exploded with major ovation for the captain as he's completed this comeback. And not only did he complete the comeback, but he's playing meaningful minutes. He's contributing. Just absolute wonderful to see for him. I feel really happy for Gabriel Landeskog to make it all the way back. Now, the other big thing I didn't mention too, is because we're going to some injuries here now in the Montreal-Washington game. Not only did they have chaos and all this fight, but both starting goaltenders were hurt as well. It started with Samuel Montembeault, left the game, and he left the game on his own accord. There wasn't anything real obvious. Sportsnet later found a clip showing him going side to side making a save, and then he grabs his hamstring. So we're assuming that that's the issue. But yeah, so he left the game. Dobush had to come in and finish it, and he did fine. So we don't know if Montembeault is going to go for the next game or not. And then, not too long after that, we had Dylan Strome coming back hard on the back check, couldn't slam the brakes on in time, and absolutely plowed over his own goalie, Logan Thompson. Thompson did not look good, had a hard time getting off the ice on his own. His leg buckled underneath of him. There could have been head contact. I think it could be a combination of things. I'd say that there could be a serious knee injury. Wouldn't be shocked if he was concussed or something like that either. So I personally don't think we're going to see Thompson back in the series, at least not for a little bit anyways. I don't know, but it looked bad. I don't know the extent of Montembeault's thing. Could be cramping with the hamstring. You just don't know, right? But neither team gave an update today, so we don't really know where things stand. But that could be a game changer as well. We could end up with Dobush versus Lindgren. Normally you'd give an edge in the Capitals for the goaltending depth in the organization, but Dobush has had his moments this year where he's been good, and he could be called into action here and could be a big part of this. So we'll see when they take on tomorrow night, Game 4 in Montreal in La Belle Province. Now, Gabriel Vilardi, also for the Jets, is expected to probably return tomorrow for the Winnipeg Jets. Not guarantees game time decision, but he was at practice with a regular jersey, looked good, and was taking regular line rushes. So we're expecting that to probably happen. And of course, the other thing too with the Battle of Florida, with the Tkachuk hit, I know Paul Maurice, when he was asked about the Hagel hit the other night, his quote was, "We only hit guys with pucks." So when John Cooper was asked after the game today about the Matthew Tkachuk hit, he responded with Maurice's quote as well, saying, "We only hit guys with pucks," which we know isn't completely true, but it's just certainly the gamesmanship between the coaches. It's just adds an extra level of bitterness and intrigue to two teams that clearly have a lot of dislike, to put it lightly, for each other. So we'll be real curious to see where things go on that front. A couple updates on the coaching world. We had word today that Joel Quenneville may be getting back into some NHL action. Now, according to John Buccigross of ESPN, and then I think it was Marco D'Amico of RG.org, they both have sources telling them that Joel Quenneville has interviewed for the job with the Anaheim Ducks and that he's been offered the position, and they're waiting to see if he accepts that it's his if he wants it. Now, Frank Saravalli chimed in later and said that his sources are saying that he indeed did confirm that he interviewed for the job, but he hasn't necessarily been offered it yet, that there is other interviews that are expected to be conducted, and there are other potential candidates still in the mix. But either way, Joel Quenneville has an opportunity to be back and might be, we'll see, the next head coach for the Anaheim Ducks. And David Carle, of course, the head coach of the University of Denver, of course, multiple-time national champion, multiple-time gold medalist at the World Juniors. We know is a prime candidate to get into the NHL this year as a head coach, has a great resume, but we know is also going to be very particular with where he goes. He understands how coaching works, has a cushy spot with U of D, and obviously he's paid well, not to the level of NHL coaches, of course, but, he's not, making pennies either, right? He's probably going to end up making double the triple at the NHL level, but still, he doesn't want to be in a situation where he leaves a great job that he loves just to get into the NHL for 1 or 2 years and get fired. Because he knows how things work, and he's made that clear that that's not something he wants to do. So it's going to take a team that's going to be willing to give him a longer-term contract with a healthy salary that he feels he's earned, and that they can probably give him some sort of reassurance that, they're not going to be quick to pull the trigger here, that he's going to need time. Now, the word was that the Chicago Blackhawks were putting him right at the top of their list and were prepared to make him a mammoth offer. We got word today from multiple NHL insiders confirming that David Carle has withdrawn his name and is not wanting to be a candidate now for the Blackhawks. And based on what we're hearing out of Anaheim, if there's truth to that, Well, because I believe there's, 6 openings, I think, of coaching head jobs in the NHL right now. There's 2 right there that doesn't appear to be having Carle in the mix anymore. Or maybe, I'm not sure if he ever was with the Ducks, but could be interesting. I don't know. If you look around, I don't know if he's going to want to go straight into like a team that's more a contender, or if he'd want to take a younger team that's close to, punching through here and that type of thing. We'll see, but we know he's not going to be coaching the Blackhawks. The situation between the Carolina Hurricanes and top prospect Alexander Nikishin, with the Russian agent quotes that were released in the last 24 to 48 hours, appeared to be a little bit overblown for the Russian side of things. We got word today that seems like from Keen's reporters that I believe, if it's not done already, that it will be here shortly, that they're in the process of registering a contract for Nikishin with the Hurricanes and the NHL. One of the things that were holding things up is they were kind of waiting to decide if there was a chance he was going to go play a game for their American Hockey League affiliate first, and they were kind of waiting to figure that out. And then, so now that's not going to happen, and now he's getting registered to be part of the NHL group. But it sounds like it wasn't really that big a deal. It was more just kind of ironing a few little things out. His North American agent made it sound like, I'm not really sure what the Russian agent's talking about. Like, everything's kosher here. We got a good relationship with the team, and there's really no concerns. So, completely different story coming out of their book than the Russian agent, because the Russian agent was saying that if this isn't, that Carolina was so difficult to deal with, and if things aren't resolved soon, he may want to be traded or come back to Russia. And, not happening. He's getting signed. It may even be already official here. And, not to put any stock into that. Now, because the other thing I want to talk about as well was the Vancouver Detroit trade talk. Now, this is more of a fan-based article. This comes from Canucks Army, but it does give some intrigue here, and I want to talk about it just to get everybody's thoughts. Now, for one, it's hard to imagine Dylan Larkin leaving Detroit. He's their captain, first-round pick, been there a long time, has a long-term contract, Michigan native. Why would he want to leave? Well, I don't know that he does, but the article does make a good point that when he did his end-of-season media availability, you get a sense of frustration. Like, he talked about how the team was kind of let down by the fact that the management didn't add at the deadline. They felt like they, if they would have been able to add, make an addition or two and have that extra little help to push, that they could have gotten into the playoffs. I'm not so sure about that. They missed by enough points that I think it would have been more than that, to be honest. But I can understand why the team would kind of be bummed out and thinking, geez, we felt we were right there and we didn't get any help. But sometimes the answers have to come within the room, and that's how sometimes management looks at things. And to be honest, if I'm Steve Yzerman, I don't completely disagree with the fact that he didn't. But regardless of what I think of Steve Yzerman's moves or lack thereof, obviously Larkin and some of his teammates were not pleased by this. And it kind of felt to me with what he was saying that he was kind of not really really badly, but kind of calling out Yzerman a little bit, letting the public know that there's some things that he's would like to see different, and that we're not thrilled with a few things. Is he unhappy to the point that he wants to trade? No, probably not. But fact is, there's some frustration there. But you got to admit and remember as well that they haven't made the playoffs in a long time. And I think he got a small taste of playoff hockey in his rookie year, and they've missed every year since. So, yeah, it's frustrating. And do you expect them to be happy doing end-of-season media availability when they were expected to take a step this year? Last year, they were so close. Lost on a tiebreaker. Otherwise, they would have been in. So, They were not expecting to take a step back this year and missed by a bunch of points compared to where they were last year. So I get the feeling. But this article kind of suggesting the fact that maybe Larkin will want a change of scenery. We've heard a lot of people calling out Yzerman. I know Corey Stander recently called him out for his glacial, I think it was, I can't remember what he called it now, the glacial evolution of the Yzer plan or something like that. Yzerman's been there a long time, and they have not gotten into the playoffs. They have not progressed to the level that you think, and I think it's fair to question the Yzer plan. But obviously, the other thing too on the Canucks side that kind of triggered this article and this suggestion was that they're having a hard time getting defenseman and top prospect Tom Willander signed, and lots of questions about why that's not done as well. And there's some wondering if it's going to lead to a Willander trade. He has projected to be a top 4 defenseman. It could be a great piece to get a centerman. The Canucks need a centerman in the worst way. And Larkin is a kind of a prototype of what they should be trying to get. Now, getting it's going to be hard. It's going to be expensive. It's probably not going to be Dylan Larkin. But if it were, this is what they felt a trade could look like, offering up a guy like Willander, maybe a prospect centerman like Atu Ratu, and maybe it might have to involve multiple picks, a first rounder. It also not only suggested Willander, but either him or the Elias Pettersson defenseman, not Elias Pettersson the centerman. Although, you got to wonder about that too, right? Lots of talk about Pettersson being traded. Could he be traded for Larkin? For one, part of this is not only about really attacking the trade market by getting a player, like a positional player like that they really need. It's also about making Quinn Hughes happy. Dylan Larkin is good friends with Hughes. Both obviously spent a lot of time in Michigan. So there was that. So it was making Hughes happy, changing up the mix, adding to a position of weakness for the team. I get the sentiment. I understand why the concept would make sense to Canucks fans, and it would. But would you be more willing, if you're Vancouver, to do a deal that is basically more of a futures package? So you're throwing in a young D, like a Willander or a Pettersson, but let's say Willander because he's having the contract issue, and then a young centerman like a Ratu, maybe a first and second rounder, or maybe it's multiple first rounders. I don't know, but like a couple of picks for sure, and a couple of solid prospects. Is that going to get it done? I mean, is Vancouver more comfortable with that? Then you have Pettersson, Larkin down the middle. Cap-wise might be tricky to pull off because you're not really shedding anything cap-wise. Detroit doesn't get better today. They trade their captain for futures base. I mean, they're not going to want to take a step back further, right? So Detroit's not going to do that. Not in that sense. Now, would they consider a Larkin for Pettersson trade? Maybe. Because then you're trading guys that are on their own teams, top-line centermen, different style of the game, different contract, change of scenery for both. Does it do them good? Detroit has a wonderful history with European players, specifically Swedish guys. Maybe it's a spot for him to get his career back on track. Larkin goes out with his buddy Quinn Hughes. I don't know. I'm not really sure that happens either, but it's a lot more interesting to think about because I don't think either of these teams are in a spot where they can make a trade where they move a top player and get a prospect package type of return. They are trying to win now and get back into the playoffs if you're Vancouver and to break the longer streak of Detroit. If you're Detroit and you sell off Larkin for futures, I think this fan base riots, and I don't blame them. It's not the right move. Now, you trade him for another top centerman because you're changing up your mix, you're changing up your dynamic, then maybe, okay. Maybe that makes the team better. I mean, to be fair, Pettersson's had, some results that can outperform Larkin offensively. Now, more recently, I can see the concerns. But in the past, if Pettersson gets back to being 100-point Pettersson, Larkin's not that. At least he hasn't been. He's more like a 70, 75-point player. He's got great speed. Lots to like about his game, obviously. But, that would be the more realistic potential. Although I don't know that either team pulls the trigger on that. But let me know your thoughts. Is it something Detroit and Vancouver should explore? Or is the premise of this article, which I'll link down below, more realistic? I don't think it is. I found the article interesting. I've seen Canucks fans talking about it, wanted to weigh in, and I think if you had any chance of getting Larkin, that's what it's going to cost you. And I'm not sure you're going to want to do that. Or they would ask for Hughes. And you're not going to do that either, right? So obviously we know they're somewhat open to trading Pettersson, but that could be an interesting look for both sides. Let me know your thoughts and all of the playoff action in the comments, and we'll talk further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.